You're walking alone, and suddenly, a magpie lands in front of you. Just one. You remember the rhyme, one for sorrow. You try to shake it off, but something feels wrong. For centuries, this bird has been a harbinger of misfortune, death, and secrets whispered in the dark. But why? What does the magpie know that we don't? If stories like this send a chill down your spine, subscribe to The Silent Lodge. We dive into the forgotten, the haunted, and the strange truths hidden in old folklore and eerie history. You won't want to miss what's waiting in the shadows. Few nursery rhymes have embedded themselves so deeply into the collective imagination as One for Sorrow. On the surface, it's just a counting rhyme, a simple set of verses meant to entertain or teach children numbers. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find something far older and far darker lurking just beneath the surface. The rhyme goes like this: 1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told. Versions of this rhyme exist all across the English-speaking world, with slight variations in wording or structure. Yet almost all of them begin the same way, with 1 for sorrow. It's an omen, a warning. And for many, it's not just a superstition. It's a ritual. But where did it come from? Why is the magpie, of all birds, linked so closely with misfortune, secrecy, and sorrow? To understand that, we need to go back. Not just to the 1800s, when the rhyme was first published in children's books, but much further, to a time when birds weren't just part of the natural world. They were messengers, symbols, and sometimes harbingers of death. In British and Irish folklore, magpies have always stood apart from other birds. They weren't just creatures of the sky, they were omens, seers, thieves, and in some tales, something much worse. Unlike other birds, magpies exhibit behaviors that feel almost human. They're highly intelligent, fiercely curious, and known for collecting shiny objects. Some legends claim that magpies steal not just trinkets, but souls, that they can sense death, that they arrive at moments of tragedy, not by chance, but by design. This is why, even today, many people in the UK follow an old custom when they see a single magpie. They salute it, or they say, "Good morning, Mr. Magpie. How's your wife?" It might sound like a joke, but it's a ritual meant to break the omen, to show the bird that you respect it. Because ignoring a lone magpie, turning your back on it without acknowledgement, is believed to invite bad luck, or worse. So how did this rhyme and this superstition become so widespread? The answer lies in a fascinating blend of pagan folklore, Christian mythology, and centuries of cultural fear. The magpie didn't become a symbol of sorrow overnight. Its reputation is centuries in the making, stitched together from ancient beliefs, religious mistrust, and the human tendency to fear what we don't understand. In medieval Europe, the magpie was cast as a suspicious creature. Folklore claimed that it was the only bird not to sing or mourn at the crucifixion of Christ. Some tales say it even laughed as Christ was dying. Because of this, magpies were seen as godless, even demonic creatures, while ravens and crows were feared for their association with death. The magpie was hated for its indifference to it. This portrayal continued in art and literature. In 16th and 17th century paintings, magpies were often shown alongside symbols of vice: a thief's satchel, a noose, a devil's mask. To many, the magpie was not just unlucky, it was unholy. But the fear wasn't just religious, it was also cultural. Across Northern Europe, particularly in the British Isles and Scandinavia, magpies were believed to be messengers between worlds. Some believed they carried souls of the dead. Others thought magpies served witches or were witches themselves in animal form, familiars used for spying or delivering curses. In Scottish and Irish folklore, it was said that if you saw a magpie outside your window, it was a sign that someone in the house would soon die. In parts of Wales, magpies were considered omens of war or disaster, appearing just before a major tragedy struck. And yet, these birds are not universally feared. In Norse mythology, the magpie was once seen as a sacred bird, associated with Skadi, the goddess of winter, mountains, and bow hunting. Skadi was a solitary figure, fierce, cold, and watchful, traits that some cultures later projected onto the magpie itself. Even the rhyme, "one for sorrow," may have grown from these shifting perceptions. The earliest versions date back to at least the late 1700s and were passed down orally in rural communities. Over time, the rhyme became a way to make sense of the unexplained, of sudden illness, bad harvests, or strange deaths. People sought patterns in nature, and the magpie, ever present and always watching, became an easy target. What makes all this more unsettling is that magpies are incredibly smart. Scientists now know that magpies can recognize themselves in mirrors, a trait shared by only a few species, including humans, elephants, and dolphins. They also hold grudges, remember faces, and communicate danger to other magpies. In other words, they're watching, and they remember. It's no wonder so many people treat them with reverence and a healthy dose of fear. Superstitions aren't just stories we tell, they're habits we live by, passed down quietly from one generation to the next. And when it comes to the magpie, these habits can become rituals, small acts meant to hold back something we don't quite understand. One of the oldest and most well-known rituals in the British Isles is this: when you see a lone magpie, you must salute it. Not doing so, it's said, invites bad luck or worse. But there's more to it than just a simple gesture. The full ritual, still followed by many today, goes like this. "Good morning, Mr. Magpie. How's your wife and children?" It might sound quaint, even humorous. But this line has deep roots. It serves two purposes: recognition and respect. The idea is that magpies are intelligent and prideful. By acknowledging them, especially a solitary one, you show that you mean no harm, that you see them, and you hope they'll return the favor. In some variations, people will touch a lucky charm, make the sign of the cross, or even spit over their left shoulder after seeing a lone magpie. The belief is that without these actions, the bird's presence could foreshadow an illness, an argument, a death in the family, or a stroke of misfortune. These beliefs are especially strong in rural England, Scotland, and parts of Ireland, where magpies are both common and symbolically potent. In northern England, there's even a version of the rhyme that extends further. 8 for a wish, 9 for a kiss, 10 for a bird you must not miss. The idea is that counting the magpies can tell you what kind of day you're going to have: joyful, sorrowful, full of secrets, or marked by danger. But this isn't limited to the UK. Similar magpie-related superstitions appear in Germany, France, Italy, and even parts of Asia. In South Korea, by contrast, magpies are actually considered lucky, believed to bring good news or the arrival of guests. This sharp contrast shows how culture shapes meaning, even when the creature remains the same. Despite our modern, rational world, these superstitions persist. They survive not because we believe in them literally, but because they feel true in moments when logic falls short. The sight of a single magpie at just the wrong time, during a funeral, before a job interview, outside your window at night, can unsettle even the most skeptical heart. And when we speak to the magpie, or raise a hand in silent salute, we're not just following tradition. We're protecting ourselves, just in case. Because deep down, part of us still wonders, what if it's watching? What if it knows something we don't? 1 for sorrow. The words echo like a whisper, quiet but unforgettable. Though the rhyme is centuries old, it continues to haunt the modern imagination. From horror films to best-selling novels, music to memes, the magpie and its eerie poem have never really disappeared. Shows like Supernatural, Penny Dreadful, and The Haunting of Hill House have all referenced One for Sorrow, either directly through the rhyme or indirectly through the ominous presence of black and white birds. Filmmakers use the magpie much like an old mirror or a flickering candle, a visual cue that something is off, that something dark is coming. In some British horror films, you'll even find characters who recite the full rhyme, counting magpies in the distance before something terrible happens. These scenes aren't just for atmosphere, they're tapping into an ancient fear most of us recognize instinctively. In literature, especially Gothic fiction, the magpie is often a symbol of the unknown. Authors like Susan Hill and Daphne du Maurier have drawn on the bird's folklore, using it as a metaphor for sorrow, secrets, or the return of something long buried. In music, the influence is just as strong. The British pop group Steps famously released a song in the late 1990s titled One for Sorrow, a dance ballad that used the phrase as a metaphor for heartbreak. But in darker corners of the music world, artists and composers have used the rhyme in more haunting ways. Children's choirs singing the rhyme in minor key, ambient tracks layered with magpie calls, even metal and folk bands weaving the superstition into their lyrics. Why? Because the rhyme is simple, rhythmic, and unnerving, a perfect storm for unsettling emotional resonance. It evokes a primal memory, being told a strange story when you were young, and sensing that the adult telling it didn't even fully understand what it meant. So why does One for Sorrow endure? Partly, it's the rhyme itself, short, easy to remember, and emotionally charged. But more than that, it's the mystery of the magpie, a creature that's clever, beautiful, and unsettling all at once. It sits between worlds, black and white, sacred and profane, natural and supernatural. And in a world obsessed with control, prediction, and logic, the magpie remains a symbol of the unexplainable. That's why even today, people still salute the bird. They still whisper greetings. They still count. Because somewhere deep down, we still fear what the magpie might know. One for sorrow, two for joy. But what if you only ever see one? If this kind of folklore lingers with you long after the story ends, you're in the right place. Subscribe to the Silent Lodge for more unsettling legends, forgotten history, and stories that were never meant to be remembered. And if you've ever saluted a magpie, tell us in the comments. You're not alone.